Africa is the second largest continent in the world, and by the year 2050, Africa's population is estimated to be 1.3 billion people, and 2 out of every 5 children born worldwide will be born on the continent of Africa. Africa suffered for many years under colonial rule, and after colonialism experienced widespread famine, wars, poverty, and coups. Today, Africa looks nothing like the continent shown to us on our televisions in the early 1990s. Today, Africa, in particular Sub-Saharan Africa, is home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world. At the same time, though, a newer form of colonialism and oppression is creeping back into the continent. This time, the oppression is coming from conservative Africans. Just like all other conservatives throughout the world, want all the benefits that come from living in a modern society, but they can never accept any of the societal changes that also come with a modern society. Worldwide, all conservatives have an unhealthy obsession with traditions or culture, and it's never enough for conservatives themselves to live a conservative lifestyle. They want you to also live by their conservative values. To the conservatives, values can never change, traditions can never change, culture can never change. Everything must stay the same to conservatives, and in many cases, they want to go backwards to an earlier time. Conservatism is what happens when people stop evolving, almost like a butterfly crawling back into its cocoon, hoping it can go back to being a caterpillar. That is what conservatism is doing to humanity. And as the world continues to develop and progress at a rapid rate, conservative values and conservative traditions become less influential and less important. As these old and outdated values and traditions dwindle and become less influential worldwide, the conservatives of the world complain and they object to the current societal changes by blaming different marginalized communities throughout the world. In this video, we will be concentrated mostly on the conservative government of Uganda, which is located in the central eastern part of the African continent. Uganda's parliament is set to consider a draft law that criminalizes anyone identifying as LGBTQ+ and threatens them with 10 years in jail. The bill also threatens landlords with prison time if they rent housing to gay people. It is the latest sign of rising homophobia in the conservative oppressed country of Uganda, where homosexual acts are already illegal. The campaign group Human Rights Watch said it believed that if the law was passed, Uganda would be the only African country to criminalize those who simply identify as LGBTQ+. The proposed law would also ban the funding or promotion of LGBTQ+ activities. It also prescribes a 10-year jail term for anyone who engages in a same-sex relationship or marriage. Consent will not be a defense, according to this new conservative law. LGBTQ+ activist Frank Mugisha, who lives in Uganda, said people were being indoctrinated into believing that gay rights were a threat to Africa's traditional values, and it was some type of big monster that was coming from the West. Frank Mugisha explained they've registered so many cases of violations, they've seen so many cases of arrest, violence, blackmail, and extortion, so this is going to increase in Uganda, the activist said. In 2014, Uganda's Constitutional Court nullified the Anti-Homosexuality Act, which had toughened laws against the LGBTQ+ community. It included making it illegal to promote and fund LGBTQ plus groups and activities, as well as reiterating that homosexual acts should be punished by life imprisonment. The court ruled that the legislation be revoked because it had been passed by Parliament without the required quorum. The law had been widely condemned by Western countries. The punishment of life imprisonment for same sex relations already exists in the country's penal code. It is not clear if the proposed new legislation would override this. Same sex relations are banned in about 30 African countries where many people uphold conservative religious and social values. Many conservative African countries are developing closer ties with other conservative countries like China and Russia, because closer ties with these two countries will allow them to preserve outdated traditions, cultures, and values. Whereas if they were to develop closer ties with the West, old traditions and values would become less important as more of a global community partnership would take precedence over old traditions and values.